All right, we're on. Scott Butler, Salt Life. So 66. That's right. Don't miss that. So you have a really interesting story. Before we even get into your photography and what you've been doing for the last 4 years. How long have you been doing this?
It's been about 3.5 years.
Yeah. I would like you to tell your story that even got you into being at the beach every morning for the last 4 years to document
story.
What you've been. Yeah.
Well, I can start out with this. 20 years ago, I made a decision to stop drinking. And that was one of the most important things I've ever done in my life. And, it's opened up a whole new doors. And then with that, here comes, I've been working and, we have lots of injuries in our professions. I'm a painting contractor. So over the years, I've had injuries to my body where chronic pain was always happening. I've had 3 shoulder operations, triple hernia operations, neck issues, neurological, lots of pain in the back, lower back. So what I would do, I would go to the doctor and they would say, here, we're going to have to have a surgery and this and that and put you on these medicines. And, I knew from being an alcoholic that things have turned to be addictive. And so, the first time I had a run-in with those pills, it was, kind of a scary thing where I found my first thing with depression. And so I didn't like it. So next time my surgery, I gave the pills to my wife and I gave them as needed. And they were just a little at a time, but still over time, surgery after surgery, year after year, my body just became used to taking all these pills were anywhere from oxycodones to methocarbamol, gabapentin, which was, to me, was one of the worst things they ever gave me. It's like 3,600 milligrams they were giving me. It made me toxically ill. And so long story short was I had a toxic concoction of all these pharmaceuticals that were just driving me nuts. And I couldn't figure out why I wasn't happy. Doctors would say, take this for your head, and I didn't want to. But long story short was I got into a severe depression where I almost became a statistic by my own hand. And that became a really dark spot in my life. It was around the 2018 to 20. That year, I got rid of all my employees. It was a whole different way of living a life. Everything I knew before had to change. So I decided to make a deal with myself, just wake up at 4:30 in the morning instead of 7:30. Instead of just jumping out of bed and going to work, I decided to get right with my higher power again. That meant going to the beach. And I just started feeling a little bit better day by day. Vitamin C and Mother Nature's salt water and air. And I put my camera up on a little tripod or on like a little stand and record the sunrise. And I was like, oh, that's really beautiful. Well, it's basically how the whole Salt Life 66 on Instagram got started, where I never stopped going, and each day it's a new adventure. I have my little prayer in the morning. It's like, let me do your will, not mine, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I just show up, and things happen. And so while I was doing the sunrises, I started seeing these other social media people that I looked up to and watching their drone work and there's some of these really cool things. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna try a drone. And so I bought a drone and I started seeing the world from a whole different perspective. Seeing the animals, seeing the beauty, but also got to see all the ugliness that was going on behind the scenes.
And that's what I want to leverage you for a lot too, is you've watched the whole Bathtub Beach saga unfold over time.
Pretty much.
So you've had a front row seat where most of us, you go to the beach maybe to surf or just, hang out periodically. You're there every single morning and you've watched how that's all unfolded as well. So I was curious your version of that and recapping how that's unfolded.
So we can start by, I've been a Martin County resident for 36 years. And I think one of the first places I went was the beach. I remember how beautiful and pristine it was and stuff. And, I remember the first hurricane I was involved with and seeing the beach afterwards, how all the sand and everything was gone. And then within months, Mother Nature put the sand right back where it was at, and I kept talking to the locals and, yeah, that's just the best thing. Mother Nature will take the sand and put it back. It happens every time. And so what really got me was, I think it was when Martin County had decided to go ahead and put a seawall in at our Bathtub Beach, which, you know, a lot of the locals didn't want it. The ones who lived here knew about it. You know, I mean, not like, I don't want to say names, but the Perrys. But, you know, they lived out there, right out there on where Rand's Pier was at. And that was some pretty amazing stuff back in those days. But from what I started to see was when they were building that seawall, even before that, we had the beach was destroyed. There was no way to get to the beach. The pavilion was out there getting knocked down, and I started to wonder if Martin County was even going to take the time to go take this pavilion down, or if it was just going to go in the water and become a structural problem for boaters and stuff. And finally they came out and took out some of the metal, you know, the benches and stuff. So that was progress. And then, you know, one day I'm watching them take out the rest of the pier. And then they start putting down these pilings into the ground, these big metal, long, deep metal walls, you know, putting 30 feet down the wall or whatever, and put concrete on it and built that seawall. And as I'm watching this seawall being built, I remember the property between Bathtub Beach and Sailfish Point, there's like 2 or 3 lots that have always been opened. And I've always wondered why they had that open. You know, it's just like, to me, my mind was, hey, I think Sailfish Point really wants a bridge.
Basically.
And that's what I was thinking from day one, was like, you know, because then they could call it a private island where you could have no trespassing going down to the beach. And I know they don't like people walking down their backyards, but, you know. So one morning, I believe it was in February, around February 27th, probably to be exact. I remember getting there at 5 in the morning like I normally do. I could smell diesel fuel, you know, like gas, you know, really heavy fumes. So I walked down to the beach, you know, Bathtub from where I parked, and I could see that there has heavy construction building this big berm around the beach area from up by Sailfish Point. Just high enough to where you're walking by, you couldn't see what was going on. So I put my drone up, you know, went back and put my drone up and had night vision. I kind of got an idea that they were doing something that they didn't want people to see. So I waited around and waited until it got light out, and actually I could put the drone back up again, and I could see when they were pumping from.
When was this? Well, February?
I believe it was in February 27th. It was like.
Cool. I'll find it. Sorry, I interrupted you.
That's okay. It was around that time, February. I'm not sure for the exact same date, but I put the drone up, and I could actually see them pumping from the Sailfish Point Marina, because there's a pipe that Martin County and Sailfish had put in there together, and there's an agreement that Martin County and Sailfish put in where anytime they do a dredging that they can use that pipe to use from the river. And so one of the deals was that I had heard from somebody that Martin County will pump out their marina, right? And so that marina is man-made ditch. So to me, it only has tide level. It rises and falls without any kind of ground moving out. There's no sediment that moves in or moves out. So when all those boats sit there, and this is just my opinion because I don't know else how it got there, that, you know, they drip oil, gas, you know, nobody's perfect out there, and then there's, you know, poisons, whatever, you know, just stuff that fouled up the water pretty bad. So when they were pumping out there from the Sailfish Marina into the bathtub, it was a black sludge that smelled like diesel fuel and gas. And it was just pouring out over the bathtub and out onto the reef.
Jeez.
And so I made a little video, and it's like, WTF. And that was my first, like, aha moment. There's something going wrong here. Because then once people saw that, they're like, what is this? What's going on? So from then on, I started just like, I don't know, eagle-eyeing it, watching every move that was going on there. And, you know, sometimes it's being monotonous, but, you know, I've captured so much stuff that was going on that, you know, during the turtle season, that was the one thing too, that there, you know, the state law or federal law about the turtle season saying I put it up on the pictures right next to it stating that anytime there's turtle season nesting going on, there's not to be any kind of work being done, including dredging or beach renourishments.
That's crazy, that stuff just pouring out of that tube.
Oh, yeah.
That's
You know,
nuts.
and not only that, they had 24 hours of heavy machinery running, and you know, big bulldozers pushing sand into the ocean and moving sand and back and forth. Um, and not only that, but when they were dredging the rest of the river area, you know, for the deeper channels for the boats to get in and out of the marinas, that beach area, that sand area is the flats, where to me again it's just a place where all the poisons, you know, we've had Okeechobee discharges over the years, and then it makes its way up into the rivers, and it makes its way up into the flats. And what's it do? It settles there. And then when the next high tide comes along, it doesn't really move back out, again, in my opinion. And then the sand becomes poisoned, you know, it becomes toxic. And so all that sand that they pumped from all those marina, or from all the sailfish point areas, the flats, it was all black and gray sand. It wasn't our white beach sand that was supposed to be there. It was black and gray. And today you can still see it.
Yeah, you can.
You can still
It's
see
different.
it and feel it. You know, especially now that our last little high tide event, the full moon, you know, king tide, took about every bit of that sand that, you know, I think it was a $6 million sand job, and that was even without the seawall cost. Come and go. All that sand's gone now, and it's moved out over to the flats areas, or even not the flats. I'm sorry, but the reefs. There's a 3-reef system out there, out in front of Bathtub Beach, that runs down from where the rocks start. Well, actually, it runs up and down the whole east coast almost, where the Treasure Coast, where starting at like the House Refuge, might be a little further up there, but all the way down, even down to Jupiter. But there's a 3-reef system out there that I could see over time, where on a clear day I could see the reef and thriving, you know, with animals and red sponge and green seagrass and stuff. But then with all that sand that got brought in here, they put so much sand it smothered it, covered it all up. So it was just like a big old mess of stuff. And then when the sand's gone, everything's, to me, was dead. 4,000 feet down from where I fly, which is halfway to the inlet, stuff started to look a little bit better because it wasn't covered with sand, because the currents and the tides didn't allow it to go that far.
I'm just looking at all your videos here. It's really amazing that you do this every morning, man. You got a drone, you're getting the surf footage, but to capture what they've been doing out there and what they did, because otherwise it's kind of invisible, you know, like nobody captures it every single day, you know. You
Right.
may not be there while that stuff's pouring out.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. You know, what I do is go out there every morning and do a sunrise. That's my first and foremost. So I'm there. And after sunrise, I like to hang out a little bit and fly the drone and get to see what I see.
Yeah.
And while I'm there, I'm looking at stuff. Like even now, I was watching them build that elevated road out there, elevated wall to stop the river flow on that side. And, you know, all the work that they destroyed in the Bathtub Beach area, I call it destroyed because there was a bunch of nice trees there that were actually holding the sand down, but there's no tree systems there anymore, no roots. Well, that's another thing.
What have you noticed change?
So I'm not sure on the dates on these. I'm just saying in the 50s and 60s there was Australian pines out there in front of Bathtub Beach, and that's the root systems are exposed again now. So I call it forest floor that was covered up. So right before they did the renourishment, all that was exposed, and I could see it with the drone. It was like really dark looking, mud looking feeling, but it was really spongy, sometimes 6 inches, 12 inches, 18 inches deep of old forest floor that had fell and got covered back up with sand. Now that sand's gone again, I see those old Australian pine roots in the water again, where the pavilion used to be. And it's pretty crazy how I just saw that just not too long ago, and it's like, yeah, all of that sand is completely gone that they put there to make that beach. There's at least an 8-foot drop off now from where they had built the sand berm, the seawall, and put all the seagrass to protect it from eroding. Pretty soon you're going to see concrete if we get more waves coming in.
That's the thing, right? So the whole point of it was to stop the water from just going over the barrier.
It's supposed to stop the water, but all right, so again, I'm not an engineer or scientist, but the seawall stops over by the houses there. I'm not going to say names or nothing, but everybody knows there's 2 houses there.
Yeah, I'll pull up
and those to me are actual low spots already, because right now when we have a high tide, well, actually right now the sand has moved so much that those backyards got big sand backyards again. But just recently, within the last 2 weeks, we were able to walk through. You could walk underneath both those houses if you had to, because the water was underneath those houses. And one of them almost lost his driveway just recently because of that storm, and they ended up footing it up with concrete. Otherwise, that whole road corner right there would be gone, because that guy's driveway is the road, and that's the wood house. But anyway, to the left of if you're looking at the houses from the ocean view, to the left of the concrete house, that seawall stops right there. And there's a good 8, 10, 12-foot drop-off after that where if we get a high tide that's going to run through there, it's going to go right through that area. And then, of course, with the power of energy, forceful energy, it's just anytime waves hit that seawall, it's just going to force it in.
It's got to go somewhere.
And it's going to go to that corner. Oh, look, that's where those houses are at that nobody likes. And oh, look, and on the other side of that is mangrove marsh.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the river's at. That's probably the lowest spot of the road that they're not raising. Oh, is that the place where they want that bridge? It could be.
It protects that road, that wall.
Well, it partially.
But
until
who eats it, it's going to be those houses.
The wall stops. Yeah, right. The seawall stops, right.
And all that energy that, sand's going to dissipate that energy different than a wall. That wall, water's going to flush down that wall and just gut out.
Push down that outside edge.
Right.
And
what about those guys?
So
they're less, I guess they're less relevant than, I'll zoom out here, than these guys, right?
The people who live in those houses, I mean, everybody's like, well, those houses shouldn't have been there, whatever. That's here nor there.
But they are.
They are there. And when they were built, they were totally fine to build there. And I know a little bit about the one who built the concrete house. I know it's going to stay there for a while because those pilings are deep. But unfortunately, the way the sand is moved and the whole man getting involved and putting that seawall there, it's just it's a bad design in my opinion, because all that's going to do is erode that property to the left of the seawall to the point where it's just going to be uninhabitable and the road's going to be gone. So guess what? You're going to have to tear down the house, or I don't know what they're going to do. That wood house will probably go before the concrete house for sure, because that wood house is just on wood stilts, big wood pilings. A few days where I've seen that, it's like, oh, it looks like it's getting ready to go, because you just see the pilings in the ground. How deep are those?
Right.
But
and they're wood.
Yeah.
So what's the answer, man? What do we do?
Well, if I knew,
you gonna run for county commissioner or something?
If I knew that answer,
how do we fix this?
If I knew that answer, I don't think I'd be here.
No.
I don't know. I mean, to me, I look at it and I try to post so I can get other people's opinions to see what's happening. I know I got when Vote Water had their little meeting at the Sewell's Point home, or Sewell's Point building downtown, or down in Sewell's Point Road.
Mm-hmm.
Sub police station there, whatever they call that. I went there and actually to meet up with Mark Perry, talk to him a little bit about it, and then I got to actually meet Jackie Lipschitz-Thurlow.
She's super cool.
Yeah, and I showed her the video of the dredging of the marina, pulling all that toxic water out there. And, it's definitely criminal. Back to the criminal aspect of it all too. Like during that time when they were doing a lot of that dredging, it was during the sea turtle nesting season. So I made a video. It was like, this is criminal. This is not, this is against the law. I even put the state statutes or federal statutes right next to it, so I didn't make it up. And then I get these messages back on my Instagram. Oh, you better be careful who you call criminal. And I'm like, well, you are? And they're like, well, we got permits. Well, there's no permits that, I didn't know you could have a permit that you could go ahead and destroy the beach at the same time and kill the reef at the same time. Do you have a permit for that? Because that was where all that toxic water was going to. All that black sludge was going right out into the reef. It made me feel a little uneasy, but I also felt good because I knew I was ruffling some feathers. Because
exactly.
I'm just a guy with a drone. That's how I looked at it. And I could see stuff from above that most people don't see. I mean, and it was clear to me that from the get-go, they were trying to hide stuff. The very first day I filmed, they built a berm with their tractors. So you and I walking on the beach couldn't see what was going on. We could smell it, but we couldn't see it. Get the drone up there, look at it, and there you go. The footage will speak for itself. Did you find it yet?
Oh, I've been bouncing in and out of these. They're all so cool. There's so many beautiful ones, and then you got, where you're documenting what's going on there.
Yeah, I've got several videos of like 2017 when I first flew a drone. I have some really cool pictures of Bathtub Beach when it was in its beauty. Where it was easy to park, easy to get out, easy to walk over the dune and go to the beach, go to the pavilion, spend your time. And it was beautiful, pristine water, super clear.
It is beautiful, man.
Yeah.
We do live in paradise. But unfortunately, campaign contributions come from that little island there.
It's the power of the dollar.
Yeah, man.
The almighty dollar. I met a guy that was he moved from out of state, moved to Sailfish Point, and he was watching he started showing up at the beach in the morning and started kind of questioning what I was doing. I didn't know who he was, and I was like, yeah, I think those people on Sailfish Point, they really would rather have that island be private, just so that they don't have to worry about people walking down their backyard, and Singer Island did that. They got a private island now that you can't walk on there. So it's because of a bridge. And this guy was like, really? Well, I didn't know that. And he's like, when I came here, they showed me all these beautiful pictures of the beach. It looks nothing like that now.
Yeah, man. And people forget, like right now I have this one up where there's some swell. People forget how much energy is coming at that wall. And all of that energy has to go somewhere. If it's not going to go over the barrier island and over the road, right? Yeah. If there's serious swell like that, you see it refracting back, right? But with a concrete wall, that's just going to flush down that wall, man.
So I think there's probably even some of that video that has that concrete wall showing how that water does move. How it just splashes and just runs right on down and pushes all that energy down to the point where there's no more wall. And then it spins around it and moves on out.
And you wonder if whoever owns that house has a good case to sue the county.
Well, I know that wall washed out their whole driveway.
Right.
And I watched the owner's son build a wall out of cinder blocks to shore up the erosion so it wouldn't take the road.
Yeah, all of a sudden your garage has no floor.
So the garage has no floor. The living room has no floor. You look up into the second floor of the house, it's like...
So what's the future for Salt Life, man? I know you're selling prints. I happen to be blessed with one of your prints here.
Yes. Well, thank you for being my first customer.
It's amazing, man. That's my most favorite place in the whole wide world. So to get to look at that in the middle of doing x-rays or whatever I'm doing in here is nice.
It's a magical, beautiful spot, and that's why I go there every day. And as far as what's up for Salt Life, I'm just going to keep going every day. I have healed so much physically, emotionally, spiritually, and however emotionally, physically, just by being there. Not only that, I get to meet some really cool people. Most people that go to the beach, they just want to feel better. They don't go there to be mad or angry.
Yeah, nobody's gonna have a bad attitude at the beach,
right?
Unless the waves are good.
Once they leave, well, yeah. Once they leave, they most generally feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody that's the commonality I have with everybody that comes to the beach, is that we all want to feel better when we get out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it easy to talk to people. I've kind of developed a tribe out there of people, from local surfers, which I tell you, it wasn't easy to get out there at first either.
You picked the spot.
Well, what I mean by that is photographers, especially drone photographers, and secret beach spots, which it's not a secret anymore. But it was a little rough at first. I didn't feel that. I was accosted once about it. It's people like you that ruined this place.
When I was younger, they would smash your camera.
Well, that's what he did.
Yeah.
He knocked my drone right out of my hand, phone, everything, and it was an attack. And I just was shocked because it was somebody new. But I took off my shoes, put his on, because that same exact morning, I knew where he was coming from. That same exact morning, there was a guy that comes from out of town that does this beautiful drone footage and stuff, and he geocached it. And he goes, "I'm doing this here at so-and-so beach." And I said, "Dude, look, I love your stuff, but please don't
do that.
Don't geocache it, because I have to live here." And he's like, "Oh, he got it." So now got the point. But once I had toned it down a little bit, because someone said I need to tone it down, I was able to I was welcomed to a degree, because you could be made to feel very uncomfortable really quickly.
It's a narrow boardwalk.
Narrow boardwalk, right? And
it's a narrow boardwalk.
Yeah, some of the local guys are some really, really great people, and it's. Regardless, I'm blessed to be able to do what I do, and I'm grateful and thankful.
And as soon as you email them or you tag them in some links of them getting barreled, it's like,
well, that's it.
New best friend. Do we just become best friends?
What I do is I always say I'm in heaven first and foremost, and I never really show geographical areas unless it was the seawall. That was the first time I started showing pictures of the area, because nobody really knew where I was at. The outsiders, they don't know where Salt Life was filming from, because I didn't show the beach, I didn't show the sand, I didn't show any structure. So once I started showing the Bathtub Beach stuff, I think some of my locals were kind of getting a little upset because they're showing what's, starting to show progress, but they also started seeing I'm doing something good for it too.
You're bringing awareness to a big problem.
I'm fighting something that most people don't see. And 9 out of 10 people had no idea that Bathtub Beach was even closed when it was closed, and they didn't even know that Bathtub Beach was open for 6 days after spending, I'm going to say, $10 million on it.
I think it's so that they could say it hadn't been closed for 4 years. They could, that 6 days was long enough to say we had to reclose it again, but you can't say it was continuously closed for 4 years or 5 years or something ridiculous.
They
like
opened
that.
it for 6 days, and then they shut it down so they could raise the roads. And to me, that again, that's just for, I think it's to appease the people in Sailfish Point. They don't want to get their cars wet during a flooded area. Of course. We did have a good washout there halfway down in MacArthur. Back in 2000, what was it? No, it was Hurricane Nicole, right? Or was it before Hurricane Nicole? And Hurricane Nicole took out all the dunes. And that was more of just a high tide water thing. We didn't really get the storm. We just had huge waves. where I actually knew somebody who got washed out from the house of refuge into the river while she was filming a wave. But yeah, that's the same time where sharks were crossing the road.
It's good. It's very Florida, man.
Yeah, but the sharks were actually staircases.
It's awesome, man. So, if somebody did want to buy a print from you, how would they do that? I know you don't want to promote yourself at all, but selfishly, I like looking at that.
Yeah.
And I bet that there's some other people
Well,
that would like to have it in their house or their office.
Well, thank you, Chris, for that plug. On the Salt Life on Instagram, Salt Life 66 Instagram, there's a little link on there that my daughter had made for me that's called Salt Life Pics. It's kind of a little hard to traverse a little bit. I'm not really.
I'll see if I can find it too.
I'm not really like literate with computers and websites and stuff. I'm getting almost be 60, which I'm learning. Thank goodness for my daughters. But it's a website that actually lets me put my prints on there, my pictures, and people can go on there and pick the picture they want. They can pick whether they want it on a canvas or if they want it on a metal, or you can pick for ornaments or cards or whatever, and then you can decide how much you want to spend on it, the frame size, and that website pretty much does everything for me. They'll ship it right to you, and it comes in a box, and you get a beautiful picture, framed picture.
Seeing if I can pull it up. There you go. It's awesome, man. For a lot of people who live here, that's their most favorite place. And when I first started to see the stuff he would put out, my immediate reaction was, that's not here. That this place doesn't get that beautiful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it is.
Oh, every bit of it is from the exact same spot I park my butt in the morning to watch the sunrise and fly the drone.
Mm-hmm.
It's heaven, It's either riverside, oceanside.
Mm-hmm.
And the manatee pictures.
It's so cool.
That's how Sailfish Flats are supposed to look.
Yep.
Crystal clear, beautiful, white sand. Beautiful.
So if somebody wanted to hang up a nice print of this, they just go on here to shop, and there's all these different options, and you can get those manatees on your wall.
Yeah. Just eagle rays.
And even when they're discharging, you can look at crystal clear water on your wall.
And you can see a sunrise there every morning.
That's right.
It's something that I do for me, right? So this whole thing I do for me. I put the music I listen to in my headphones. Like a lot of times when I'm flying my drone, I'm listening to headphones. And when I see something, I was like, oh, that's a good song. And I'll put it with that video. Sometimes I'll use the Instagram suggestions just because it's prettier. But, it's kind of something I do for me. And I always tell people, if you like it, great. If not, I don't really care because, and then I get the people who are like, well, I don't really like the way your time lapse goes. Well, then don't watch it.
People really message you and say that?
Yeah, I had somebody say, there's just too much, the wave is just going too fast, And it's like, well, don't look at the wave or don't look at it at all.
It wasn't for you, yeah.
I'm not changing it because someone's...
That's funny.
But, what I have found, though, Chris, is... no good deed goes undone.
Unpunished.
Whether it goes for trying to do the right thing or not. For example, there was this, our rocks out there are very jagged, and some of them have like crevices and holes and deep spots. And one morning I was out there during the turtle season, and there was this huge turtle stuck sideways in the rocks.
No way.
And it was almost dead when I got there, by the time I got there. And so me and this older gentleman that was showed up out there were trying to figure out a way to save this turtle, you know. And everybody's like, "Well, you should have called WWC." Blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, I could have.
So the turtle could die.
Yeah. So I just decided to jump into action and do what I felt was the right thing, and jump down inside this crack and try to manage this 400, 500-pound turtle. It wasn't pretty. I mean, the video wasn't pretty, but I was able to dislodge it from that thing, and it kind of rolled over, and it bounced down on the ground and hit the water and swam off, right? But it was rough, right? It looked rough. And then 98% of the people were like, "Beautiful job, great, I'm glad you did that." But the 2% who said, "Oh, you could have done better. You're not supposed to touch the turtles."
When was this?
I'm not sure exactly. It was like
a few months ago or something?
No. This is probably 4 years ago.
Oh, this was
3 years ago. Yeah, it's like
you.
This was early before all the storms and all this kind of stuff. It was like probably like the 3 years ago turtle season. It was way back. I mean, I didn't think about looking it up, but it had a lot of videos, because I also put a song on there like how to save a life, and then I'd get the people like, "Oh yeah," just like one guy says, "Oh yeah, how to save a life. Let's go get your Instagram likes by filming this turtle and then knocking it off this edge." And I'm like, dude, that's not the way it was,
It's a strange thing with social media. It reminds me of being in a car versus if you bumped into somebody, in traffic, because you're insulated inside of a car. People tend to be meaner to each other. You'd say things that you wouldn't say if you just happened to bump into somebody.
Yeah, face to face.
Or if they were, in your way a little bit, you'd be way more gracious. And the internet's that way.
Yeah, keyboard warriors.
Yeah, your most intrusive negative thoughts seem to pour out into your comments.
Yeah. But with the way I am, that really messed with me. Those feelings, and they stuck with me. So guess what? I'm not going to film me touching a turtle anymore, but I'm not going to stop saving them. I won't let anybody see me touch them. It's not going to make me stop and have to call FWC or the Marine Patrol or a sheriff, come out and save this turtle. If I can save it. Every morning I pray, and my higher power is like, let me help another human being or an animal today. So it gets me out of myself. And that's part of my story.
Maybe it's just because I'm in the public light more and I get a lot of criticism, but I've gotten to where I'll take what is said, and there is validity in some of it. Sometimes people are overly mean or critical about it, but there is truth to it. But the vast majority of those kinds of comments have nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
You're just the opportunity for them to express their internal state.
Oh yeah.
And you get to be the object of it.
Yep. Well, that's what
and you can tell.
That's
like,
why I said it really, like I said, it really messed with me.
Yeah.
I actually, it's not that I'm going to get therapy for it, but I had to talk to some people, and they're like, just say, you did the right thing. Don't do anything differently. Just maybe don't film it next time. And the whole thing just happened. It just happened how it happened, and I learned from it. But it's remarkable that how many people really would have done the same thing. I know they're federally protected and all this kind of stuff. You're not supposed to touch the turtles and baby turtles or anything like that. Molest them, whatever you call it. But if I see something in danger or needs help, I'm going to help them.
Absolutely.
Even if,
I don't know any reasonable person. I can't imagine that would really criticize you for that.
Yeah. Well, they did, but
that's why.
And there were these little sea slugs that washed up one time. These little red-looking sea slugs, and there was hundreds of them. Mm-hmm. And I felt it was my duty to save every one of them. You
saved the sea slugs too?
I did. I was picking them up.
You're a legend.
Throwing them out. But it was for me. It made me feel better. I still see stuff like there. Like crabs that get washed up in the shoreline. Mm-hmm. During the Hurricane Nicole, it was my first experience with finding shells. I was like, oh my God, that's another addiction. But see this beautiful shell, and at first I go pick it up. Oh, it was a live well. I could take it back out there and put it in the water gently. And I started to figure out that brand new, beautiful looking shell. It's live. You
that's
can
right.
tell. So it was like putting all the live ones back I could, and then being great, being given the beauty of given a really pewter shell, being able to take that shell home and use it for something good.
Keep talking. I was just pulling up your videos, man.
But the beach is just a magical place. It's healing. It's inspirational. I really hate to see what's happening with it, back to the beach. I don't know if our Bathtub Beach is ever going to be like it was supposed to be, like it was before. Right now, I don't see it opening anytime soon because, for one, how are they going to get people from that 8-foot drop off? They're doing the parking lot is half the size it was before.
You're thinking logically, and you're not thinking from the perspective of Sailfish Point and how it benefits them.
Well, no, yeah, but see, Bathtub Beach was one of the things that made Martin County what Martin County is.
100%.
I think our people in control right now have little feelings about the beach. Maybe it's because of manpower or whatever, but just
they don't go enough.
Well, what really irritated me was when one of the commissioners, I don't know who it was that said it, I know it was a woman, but she said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with our beaches. They are beautiful right now." And that same day, I had this video of the pavilion falling down, waves hitting that seawall, and there was no beach there.
High probability it wasn't Sarah Hurd, so I'm going with Stacey Hetherington.
I think that's probably who it was.
Yeah.
But it's just right now, like I said, how are people going to traverse themselves from the parking lot over this huge concrete seawall that they put the grass on, then down an 8-foot drop off? And there's no beach, and there is a beach. It's like a ledge. It's at an angle.
Are there lemon sharks there that often?
Lemon sharks are at that beach almost daily. Gosh. So the reef directly behind the concrete house and the wood house there, that's where the surfer got bit twice now.
So don't surf that on that side.
Well, it's phenomenal how many sharks are there every day. So that same part of the beach, I call it the American Eagle Reef because from above it looks like it. There's like a little barge wreck that looks like some of the talons. So at low tide, people can walk on it. It's that live worm rock reef we have there.
Yep.
You're not supposed to, but people walk on it and destroy the beach. But the sharks are on the other side in 2-3 feet of water still. So you could actually step over into that water and you'd be right around the sharks. But what I've witnessed with the drone, the sharks don't like people. When they see people, they scatter. Tarpon on a different story. Tarpon, they're
all over you. Yeah.
Tarpon will come up and they'll check you out. There's a paddleboarder guy. He's a surgeon that I met out there, and one of the first videos I seen of him, he was paddleboarding down there on the first reef, and there was hundreds of these black-tipped sharks all just darting away from him. And I thought that was one of the coolest videos. I sent it to him and said, "Oh, this is cool."
So you'd say there's more on that southern point there at the beach. There's more sharks on that point than on the other one?
So on the Bathtub Beach reef area, there's sharks always there. They're always circling. They're always moving around. They're I'm going to say it from point A, from where the houses are, to point B, which is like 4,000 feet down to the inlet. That's a lot of the sharks are in that little reef area there, swimming on that. I call it the highway because there's 3 different reef systems, right? There's a shallow reef, a deep reef, and a deeper reef because the water gets deeper as you go out. And the third reef is even more wider. So there's a lot more groundage area to it, but I really can't see in the water that much. But between the first and second reef, I call it the highway of everything, because you got tarpon that travel there, you got the eagle rays that travel there, you got the sharks that travel there, you get the sawfish, the small tooth sawfish, which is another incredible animal that's out there. And so we as Martin County residents should be blessed to know that we have the only real true highway for these animals that come in here and work their way into our inlet down through our intercoastal out to Jensen Beach, where I have found over time that this is like their main mating area where they come and breed and have their babies. So it's another thing I've done with the drone is every time I capture these small sawtooth fish on my drone, I contact the FWC at mysawfish.com and report that right away. I tell them the time of date, how long I think its nostrum is, how long the fish might be, the water temperature if I could, where it's at. I give them the video. I'm very detailed with it. And lo and behold, one day the guy responded back to me and goes, "Hey, would you like to come volunteer with us one day on the weekend to go out and catch and tag and release?"
That's awesome.
And I said, "Yeah." And the very first day we were out there, we caught a 14.5-foot female that's never been caught before. And to watch this crew that came from Port Charlotte was an amazing feat in itself. I mean, there were these young girls, young women, and 2 of the men on there. And I'm just watching them do this stuff, and with so much knowledge, so much skill, catch this big fish, bring it to an area where we could actually pull up next side of the boat. They could do all their measurements, do the surgery to put the internal GPS unit in it so it could be tracked all the time now, which is new devices they're putting in them. And then after they got all done, they let me get in the water with it to take a picture of it and feel it. And that was just like, oh my gosh.
I'm just really stressed out by all these lemon sharks.
Well, so
I didn't know there was that.
So it's safe to say, without saying where the surf spot is, very little of that action goes on at that surf area.
Okay, it's a little further down.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah, like that area. It's more south.
And then you had here we go. So this was 2 weeks ago. You got this footage.
Yeah. That's where the road was. That's where the driveway was going to collapse, and they shored it up with like 200 bags of concrete. So and the corner right there is that Woodhouse's septic that was about ready to, for the second time, being taken out. Where I'm standing is the road, the corner of the road, and you see the water is right there. And that was just a high tide, king tide event. There was no storm affiliated with that. So again, that's to that point that water sitting that concrete wall and just flushing down through here. Yeah, that's where it would be. Yeah, because that's what it's doing on the house. You see it smashing the house. Mm-hmm. Where's that force pushing it? It's pushing it directly towards me. Mm-hmm. The water's got to go somewhere. Right. Splash. So you save Sailfish Point and that drive coming into Sailfish, but you're destroying this guy's house. Guys, there's 2 of them there. Yeah. And the concrete house has a better shot, but that wood house is toast. Right. This guy. And people are going to say this, that, oh, those houses don't belong there. Well, yes, they do. They were there before a lot of these people showed up here. They're saying that. Even some of the local people I know that say, oh, they shouldn't be there. Well, it's easy to say that when it's not your house. Well, so you were standing like where that little orange, or you were videoing where that little orange guy is, because you could see where the pavers exactly hit. Yeah, right there. And that was all washed out. Yeah, that's how this whole driveway was ready to go. So you can see how much sand disappeared because of that. Yeah, that's wild, man. Well, that's I mean, Mother Nature does the best about taking sand and bringing it back. Now all that sand is back, and it makes this big, long backyard for these people where there's just nothing but sand back there. So it's actually filling in the pocket of the bathtub. That first little pocket of Bathtub Beach is filled in with sand now. And that's because all that sand that they brought in from the river, which I thought was way more than they needed, because it just... So I forgot to say, all that sand they brought in, remember how much dredge they did on the inlet? How long it took them to do that? Mm-hmm. You know, they used those big crane dredges or whatever, you know, the claw dredge. It took them forever because they had so much sand that they brought in from the river straight across into the ocean, and with tide, it pushes it all south from the reef. And just carried all itself down, and there's like a little place where it could go through the rocks down there by the inlet where the jetty's at. Mm-hmm. So all that sand was just being moved down to the ocean, out and about, being brought in at high tide, low tide, being brought in, pushed out, brought in, pushed out. And so I think it added more sand to that inlet problem than it did before too, because we've seen them use those huge pumps to dredge out the sand, like the 2 dredges before, like 2 storms before. Watch them pump it from there and down to Sailfish Point with these big long tubes.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't take quite as long, but I don't know how many days we were watching those boats out there, taking 4 or 5. I think there was 4 drop boat barges that were being filled up, and they'd take the sand and drop it out. They said they were dropping it in specific places, but to me it just.
Where did you see it? Because I said that we talked about that. Where did you see it going? Because they said it was going down south.
I'd see it go straight out, like by the 3 mile bathtub or 3 mile sandbar.
Mm-hmm.
Just out in there, like on the horizon, you see it just like boats out there, out by Bullshock Barge. Just dumping it in just odd places. I never really seen the barges go down towards Jupiter.
Mm.
They always came out the inlet and went straight out and go out and towards, left or right, but just dumping it. And the water quality was miserable, because you're dumping all that sand. And what's the tide doing? Depending on which way the tide was going, it would bring it right back into us.
Mm.
So again, that's just what I would see with the drone. Not necessarily know if they had specific coordinates to drop it. But to me, I thought they're just randomly dropping it.
Yeah, it was a different story than what I got from the Corps. Yeah, we're bringing it down south to Jupiter. Like, that's weird. Scott didn't say that.
Well, I just have so much footage.
You're there, man. Eyewitness.
Yeah, but
the memo can say whatever it wants.
Yeah.
But you're there. You got the camera.
Yeah.
You win.
Yeah. The pictures don't lie. No. And especially when there's so many of them. And the cool thing too, I started doing was trying to get like pictures of what it was like, what happened, and what's going on now.
So what's the current state?
We're still. The beach has been. It looked nice. Don't get me wrong. After it was done, it looked nice. It looked like it was going to maybe be a fun beach, presentable. The only thing I didn't like about it was every time the tide would wash up, all the garbage from the river that was sucked up. I'm saying that was like the old shells, the black poison, and the dark mud stuff would show its face. You'd see the water get dirtier from the sand. So again, I was seeing dirty sand being pumped from the river, put on this beach. And now today you can see it clear. If you go down there today and look, if you're able to walk down there and look at the seawall, you can see all these different layers of different colored sand.
Yeah, you're right.
And
different like coarseness.
Yeah, just like quarry, like rock quarry stuff.
Yep.
Old shells. They dug pretty deep, and I even heard, which I couldn't fly the drone out there to where the mangroves were at in front of as you're exiting the Sailfish Marina's dry, or area, right where their boats are parked. That man-made canal. Out in front of it was I call it the horseshoe sandbar, right? Where there was a bunch of mangroves out there, but I couldn't fly the drone out to there because of aerospace, the airport. But I could see where they had their dredge pump parked out there, and I could swear that they were under dredging the mangroves to open up more space for the bigger boats to come through for the marina. I'll have to take a look and see if those mangroves are there today. I didn't even think about that until just now.
It wouldn't surprise me. I hope you're wrong.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I would not be surprised. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Because we need more room for the fancy boats.
Yeah. It's Sailfish Point it's its own little entity. They got a lot more money than we have.
So, we've been going at it for about an hour, man. Anything else brewing? Stories to tell?
You know, all I want to do is just leave a mark that's true. You know, something that might work for something later down the road to say, yeah, this guy was right. You know, why didn't we listen to this? But, you know, who am I again? I'm just a guy with a drone, you know. But I hope all my theories don't really come to fruition. I hope that they don't really destroy those houses there by a big storm and all that weight, you know, destroy the road there. But
documenting how it's evolved is huge.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's like even at one point I was like claiming that the road, the bridge was going to be from where, Sailfish Point's property meets Bathtub Beach. They already had it's where the pipes meet, right? So from the track from the ocean to the riverside, you have sand. That's where those three lots or 2 lots have never been developed towards the river. Then you got the Sailfish Point guard gate, which is all concrete, the big circle there. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of that is mangroves where the marina's at. It's all low water. Doesn't take much for a big, powerful swell to go across that to make a river.
Now you got an island.
So there's that spot or the other spot on the other side of the seawall. So there's 2 spots that could become potential bridge places. Well, 3 if you think about it. Even further down by Surfer Beach, there's a spot down there that's really low. I mean, right now, I've noticed somebody had cleared that lot that's down there, and they got like a driveway. But since they've done that, it looks like it's just been holding water. And that's straight across from the new beach that they decided to put a name to 6 years ago.
It just seems, I don't know. It seems impossible because now you have a new inlet, right? You got a little.
Well, someone was saying,
let that happen.
Someone was saying that was the original inlet right there.
Not out by.
Someone said that there was like an original inlet right there. Now, I don't know. I'm not factual. Someone was saying that used to be the original inlet besides Peck's Lake.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
I'm sure over a long period of time, different areas, right? Like we're talking about sand moves and things shift.
Yeah. Well, my opinion right now, what man has done with that seawall has just sped up the process of any kind of deterioration, either to the left or the right of that seawall when it comes time to have a storm.
Exactly. It's just like fusing your spine.
Right.
You fuse C5, C6, and C4, C5 is going to have bigger issues quicker, and so will the segment below.
Right. You know, some of the smarter guys I know out there that are talking about the real thing to do would be to put jetties out there, out in front of the reefs to stop the water from causing so much destruction.
I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, again, so, it's a matter of what's the big picture. The big picture to me right now is they want that. Let's build the seawall, let's raise that road, and let's just hope that we don't get a storm. That way, the people over here will get what they want. As far as like anytime there's like a little bit of water on the road, they don't have to ride their cars through there anymore. I know that was a low spot, but all that whole MacArthur Boulevard is a low spot. And if you look from above, there's really not a whole lot of land there.
Right. It's a road.
It's a road, right? And all those houses that are up and down the whole area, and it is what it is, right? What can we do?
My frustration is, you can tell that not a lot of thought went into the overall effect of that area, what it would become when they did this, and how it would affect that area for all residents. It was just the focus on how to make this as accessible and protected as possible for this group of people at the end of that. But you wish more thought would have went into this holistically of how is this going to play out over time.
Right. So, I mean, why didn't they continue the seawall further down around the corner where the road meets, Just protect the road.
Money?
How much more could it have cost?
I'm just winging it. I have no idea.
know. Well, I'm just saying the whole thing is why did it stop? You know, why did it stop at this one spot?
It's the consequence with government of how we procure bids. You put out a request for proposal and you receive
Sure. I get it.
a bunch of bids, and you always take the lowest bid.
So,
you would never do that in any other.
I guess it's probably the real part of it is public beach land and private land meets.
Mm-hmm.
And where it comes private, public doesn't do anything for you.
True.
When I say public, that's commissioners, people who vote for this kind of stuff.
Except fat checks come out of sailfish.
I guess so. Because
you scratch my back, I'll build you a seawall.
You know, who knows? But
true.
Logically, that would be the best answer. I don't know for a fact, but you know, I don't think Martin County people would really want to see their beach destroyed, like I see it being destroyed. I don't ever think Bathtub Beach is going to be like it ever was before. You know, there's just people are saying it's the water tables are rising. You know, okay, it might be, but not like it is now. I mean, the whole thing, all that, it's just gone. All that sand is gone.
No, it's not sea level there. It's just bad design and mechanics and planning. Yeah. Well, on that note, let's pull you up one more time on your print shop for people who I know will want to buy a print and should. saltlive66.pic-time.com. Scroll through. Get a print for your loved one for Christmas. Can't beat that on your wall. Look at those manatees, man. Come on.
Some of the eagle rays are my favorite.
I would love for this to support you so you could paint less. Just do more photography because this is amazing. You really are documenting this area. Look at that, man. It's so cool.
Yeah, I just love doing it. I mean, if I could do this every day and make just a little bit of money to get by, I'd be like the happiest person in life.
So buy some prints, guys. Let this man work. Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this podcast. You know, if and when you see things evolving or you have an update, let me know.
Definitely, for sure.
The water is like the main thing besides development, I like to talk about. So keep me in the loop.
I will, for sure. I'd like to send you the pictures and let you know what's happening.
Awesome.
I will. I appreciate it, Doc Chris.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.